In order to clean your record, you could use an old toothbrush and just scrub it. And if that doesn't work, you could take a brush with metal bristles, and these little things will get deep inside your grooves and make sure that your record is completely clean. On a more serious note, in today's video we will be talking about using a carbon fiber brush to remove dust and static electricity from your records. Keep watching. Hi everyone, this is Sasha from LongPlayVinyl, and today I will be giving you some tips on using a carbon fiber brush such as this one in order to get your records a little bit cleaner. Because let's admit it, there are many different ways to clean your records properly and to clean them really well, and using a brush is not a way to clean your records, but as I mentioned, it's simply a way to get rid of that dust and get rid of that static. It's inexpensive, everyone can afford that, and everyone should be using a brush just like this one in my hand. It's a really good idea to always use a brush right before spinning your record. It doesn't take much time, but it's going to save your record in the long term, and more importantly, it's going to take care of your stylus. There is a lot of debate in the vinyl community on how to properly use a brush, how to take care of your records with a brush, and I'll show you 3 different approaches. Once again, you can agree or disagree with them, but I'll try to explain the best I can what I think of those approaches and why I think some are better than the others. The very first step is to actually take a record, place it on your platter and make it spin. You have to make sure you're not actually playing the record. You don't do that while trying to use the brush on your vinyl record. Now this table is fully automatic. This is a Bang & Olufsen Diagram RX. If I press the 33 RPM or 45 RPM function, it's gonna play automatically, meaning the tone arm is going to move onto the record, go down and start playing music. However, this automatic table has a turn button. It's actually titled turn, and its only purpose is to make your platter turn so you could use a brush like this one on your record and remove all that dust. Remember that spinning your platter at 33, 45 or 78 RPM will not make any difference. So don't try to make it spin faster. It's not gonna help you get rid of that dust. Finally comes in the brush. You open your brush and you need to hold it by its body and by this handle right here. Make sure you're not touching the bristles, and you have to have a firm hold of the brush, because if you're only holding by the handle while the platter is turning, it has quite a bit of torque, more torque than you can imagine. There is a high chance that it's going to knock out the brush from your hand, and if that happens, the edges of the brush or the body of the brush has a high chance of touching your grooves, touching your record, and actually damaging and making some scratches. You make your platter turn and you apply a very, very light pressure on your brush. Actually, I should say you're not applying any pressure, you're making sure that your brush is gently touching the grooves. This is the best way to clean it, and this is the optimal way to get rid of as much dust as possible. Don't try to shove in your brush in there. When you press it really hard inside, there will be some particles that you'll simply dig into your grooves, and it'll be really hard to remove them unless you do some kind of a deep cleaning, professional cleaning of your record. Another reason, once again, if you press on your brush too hard, you are once again risking of damaging your record by making a contact between the brush body and the record. Let your platter turn a few times and you'll notice that most of the dust is getting stuck on the front row of these bristles on your brush. Now, what you can do, you could tilt your brush forward a little bit, lifting your front row of bristles, and the back row will collect whatever else dust is left on your record. So it's all pretty clear and straightforward until here, and this is where the actual debate begins. How do you lift that brush from your record? There are 3 different approaches on how to remove that brush with all the dust from your record. So the first one being is, while it's still spinning and while you're still touching your record, is to move it forward to the center of your record, across the label, and touching that metal spindle. A lot of people say that by doing that, you are getting rid of that static charge by touching the spindle, and then it goes into the ground of the table and so on. Some people claim that this works for them and it gets rid of all the static. Some people say the opposite. However, it's not really a proven strategy. There is no proof that this actually works. And a lot of people who use these brushes or who produce them, they claim that the brush itself demagnetizes the record and gets rid of that static electricity. So do you really need to touch the spindle? We don't know. Once again, there's no proof. However, my problem with this first method is that when you move your brush towards the label, a lot of the dust from your brush, it kind of gets stuck on the label, and as you're spinning your record afterwards, the dust is simply going outwards and ends up on your record once again. Another concern that I have with this method is that when we handle our records, we try to never touch the grooves. So we grab it by the edges, and a lot of people hold it like this by the edge and by the center as well, by this label. So with time, this label gets all your finger grease and some other dirt, and it kind of becomes contaminated. So when you use your brush, which you should really take care of, and you're using that brush and you're going towards the center and you're constantly touching your label, you're actually contaminating your brush as well with all that grease and natural oils from your fingers. The second approach is the complete opposite of the first approach. While the record is still spinning and we're touching it with the brush, we're moving it outwards. Doing that, we're kind of dropping all the dust away from the record, which I think is pretty good. The only problem or potential problem with this strategy is that if by touching the spindle we actually do get rid of the static electricity, in this method we're not touching any metal parts and we're kind of leaving all the static on the record or on the brush as well. The third way of removing your brush from your record while trying to get rid of the dust is simply lifting it up in the air. Now this has some negative and positive as well, just like in any other method. If you're lifting it up, you're not touching the spindle, and if there was a way to get rid of the static electricity, we're not doing that. A positive point about this approach is that we're not dragging our brush across these grooves and against the record in a way, so we're giving it a little bit less damage. Now I know that all records will have a little bit of surface damage by simply putting them in your sleeves and touching them with a brush and whatever else, but of course dragging the brush across your record all the time will certainly add a little bit more of that surface damage to your record. In the next step, you need to inspect your record and try to figure out if you've removed enough dust from it. You could simply look at it closely, and if you see any more dust, you could repeat all the process that I just showed you previously. What some people do is they try to gently brush off whatever dust is left. So let's say we make it spin a little bit again. Now we stop it, and then you'll see a little tiny line of dust that kind of got left behind. So what you can do is you can brush that dust really gently upwards until you finally get rid of it and there's nothing left on your table. Now you have to be very gentle by doing that, and you have to make sure that you're removing it in the same way as your grooves are set. If you are doing it against your record going this way, that's a bad idea, because all the dust is going to get trapped between your grooves and it'll just stay on your record. After you've cleaned your record and made sure that it's pretty clean, you now have to take care of your brush, and you have to clean this one as well. Don't touch the bristles with your fingers. Don't touch them with anything else really in the house, because these brushes, they usually come with a handle, such as this one on top. This handle's purpose is not only to be a handle, but also to clean the dust away from your brush. You can simply spin it around like this a few times, touching only the body of the brush and only that handle. Don't touch the bristles, and you inspect it, how much dust is left on it. Once you don't see any more dust, you could put it back in this position so your bristles are protected. And if you have a box or anything of that sort that came with the brush, store it in there. Try to keep it generally clean, because you're using it to clean your records, and you have to make sure that it doesn't get dirty or contaminated by other elements. So there isn't an agreement in the community about the right way of using a brush on your records. So you have to figure out which approach is best for you. You have to maybe test different ones if you haven't already, and see what works best, what removes the most of the dust, and which makes you the happiest. Now, if this issue persists and you still have a lot of dirt visible on your record after using a brush, it's because you probably need a real cleaning, a wet cleaning of your record, a professional cleaning, and the brush is not going to help you here. As I mentioned before, a brush is not a way to clean your records. It's something that should be a routine before listening your records every time to protect your stylus more than anything else really. If your records are too dirty and the brush is not doing its job, it's probably once again because you need something more professional when it comes to cleaning that record and removing all the dirt. We also put out a much more detailed guide on using brushes on your records, and you could check it out at LongPlayVinyl.com. I'm also going to put a link to that article in the description of this video. I'm also going to mention all the products that I have been using, different brushes. I'm gonna link up to them so it'll be easier for you to make a purchase. If you're getting into vinyl records and you don't have a brush, this should be your next investment. Don't buy another record before you have a brush in your collection. It's going to save you a lot of money in the long run. And as I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, these brushes are very affordable, usually $20 or less, so there is no excuse of not buying one. I would love to hear what's your favorite method of using a brush. I would also love to hear how you clean your records. Do you have any professional equipment? Please do use the comment section and I would love to hear from you. If you like this video, click on the like button and make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out other videos from LongPlayVinyl.